asking Dave Smith if he'd blow Ron Paul. I want people to feel it in their bones that they are being robbed blind, and it has been happening for over 100 years, and it's not going to stop unless we stop it. The Federal Reserve is responsible for so much that is destroying this country right now, and it doesn't get any talk. Like, none.
Yeah. I'm one of these people who I say shit on social media that I'm willing to say in person, and I really don't give a fuck.
Say just the truth. Say the most courageous version of the truth.
Will you comply? Well, my answer for a long time now has been no. I will not. And unfortunately, there have not been enough people that have said so vocally enough, willing to quit your job, willing to sacrifice something to stem the tide of totalitarianism.
There's nothing worse than somebody pretending like they're your friend and then they run on you in the middle of a fight. That's what that type of liberal does. They pretend like they're your friend, and when shit hit the fan, poof.
They're gone.
Yeah, they're gone.
My question to you is this. If you think that it's tough to stop complying now, when will you be willing?
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Outlawed Thoughts. I'm here with a very special guest. This is Clint Russell from Liberty Lockdown.
What it do? Sorry.
Yes, one of the best shows on YouTube in regards to this whole liberty movement and everything that's happening.
What's up, Shane?
Partner to Reed Coverdale.
Life partner, thank you. Yes. Forest Mommy.
Shout out to Forest Mommy. She followed me on Twitter.
In here.
So this has been, I guess, kind of a long time coming. I told you, I think, in Orlando, the first time I met you, that I was going to start a show and a thing, and then it kind of took a while. But once I got back,
it usually does. Yeah.
Once I got back from those events, we got things kicked off, and I wanted to wait a little bit to have you on or any kind of interesting people, so I could get kind of my legs under me to an extent. And I kind of wanted to pick different topics to talk with people in the liberty space. It was a little bit different than maybe what I'd heard on other shows. So we kind of decided with kind of a pseudo interview kind of format where I wanted to cover some stuff about kind of internet culture and what you've seen on the internet so far.
Yeah, I don't talk about that very often, so that'll be good.
Yeah, and I know you came in to the liberty movement and kind of the general space. How long ago did you get involved, I guess, would you say?
Really, like 6 months before lockdowns, I got on Twitter. I mean, I've had my account since 2009, but I delete all my tweets after a week because I want to try and keep my account. But before
that's
that,
genius.
But before that, you could have seen that I really wasn't I didn't use my account at all from 2009 to 2019, give or take. So like I'd say halfway through 2019, I discovered Liberty Twitter. I remember like Nico or Nicolette, I don't know how you pronounce it, but she was like the first big account that followed me, and then Kurt the Libertarian and a handful of other people that were like kind of movers and shakers. It seemed like I didn't, from my perception, I had no idea.
It starts small at first.
Right. But I mean, I remember just having a few people that had like 20 or 50,000 followers that started to follow me. And oh yeah, at the time I was Libertarian Thought. I was anonymous because I was still running a mortgage company. And I didn't want, my dissident viewpoints to be out there publicly with my name attached to them. I was kind of just having fun at troll, but then I realized that I was starting to gain a bit of a following, and I think I got up to, 6,000 or 7,000 followers by the time the lockdown started. And at that point,
you shot off. I mean, your account seemed to grow super quick. And I think a big part of it was, man, you have, in my opinion, one of the best show names and like kind of branding names that is out there for the libertarian kind of movement. Because everybody gave the same advice when I was kind of starting a show, and I got some of that advice at the event that I met you. Although I think I met you at 2 events, I think, technically. Tom Woods and then Yal. And I'm sure I'll see you again here soon because I'm going to be making my way towards Florida here in the short time. But I know that one of the things that people had discussed with me is to not use the word liberty in show names. That was something that was being talked about a lot. And I was on the opposite side of that. I was kind of at the time I was going to name my show I Love Liberty, and that had been the plan for a long time. And I changed it to Outlawed Thoughts because there's a quote from Billy the Kid that I really like, where he was writing to the law at the time, basically saying, "Don't shoot me in the back." And so that's kind of where the origins of the name for this came from. But
like
with you chose your name obviously because of the lockdowns, and it just rolls off the tongue. It was simple, and I saw like your name get mentioned a couple times, and then when I went to Yale, I met you, so it kind of just worked out perfectly.
Yeah.
And you know, I guess culture around the internet, making a show. Obviously, you talked about not wanting your public name out there at first. I know for you especially, that didn't really work out on two fronts. So it became kind of a thing. And I know we're going to probably talk about that later on, more in your involvement in internet culture and kind of your involvement in Twitter and stuff. But I guess one question that I have for probably going to be all of my guests going forward is, in your opinion, what is the relationship between culture and politics? This is something that gets talked about. I think Dave Smith has made comments about this in the past, and a lot of other libertarians I've discussed this with have different answers. So I'm interested to hear your take on that.
Well, not surprisingly, I agree with Dave. It is both upstream and downstream. There's a give and take between the two. I think that libertarians generally did a terrible job in acknowledging or getting involved with the cultural aspect of the fight when it comes to politics. That's part of the reason that I, even though people clown on me for it, that's part of the reason that my intro is a rap song. I think that having some attempt to be in the cultural zeitgeist is intelligent. Like that's why I'm such a huge fan of Eric July and a handful of other artists that are out there, both for his music as well as his affection for comic books and his new comic book line.
He's certainly kicking ass.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, dude's raking in over $3 million on his first episode or first edition of his comic book series. It's incredible. So I think it's both. I mean, I think that it obviously plays a role. I think also laws can change the culture. I think Roe versus Wade's a good example of that, where abortion became, very culturally accepted because it was legal everywhere. So it's both. Right. And I think anyone that says otherwise, I could easily defeat your argument if you say that it's one way to the other.
Yeah.
It's just not true.
And I think that's one place me and you are in agreement. I have said on the show before that I think culture affects politics more than a lot of libertarians expect or admit. And I think that we're at a point now where we're kind of seeing that real world. I made a comment early on in the show when I was kind of giving my origin story, where I mentioned that in 2016, I wasn't really super politically active. I was just kind of getting involved in things at that point. And I remember when Trump had kind of first announced he was running, I saw that like all the forums and message boards that I was a member of, Reddit, 4chan, Kiwi Farms, and places like that, had all began posting in favor or against Trump. But regardless of the narrative, his name was the only thing being mentioned in every post. And I remember making a comment to my family then. I was like, he's going to win because the internet is like talking about him constantly. And that kind of brings me to the culture of the internet versus the culture of kind of the rest of the normie world, right?
Yeah.
And I think there is this sort of separation, especially now, as we see like different areas of the internet. Obviously, there was the Donald, which was a big subreddit for Donald Trump that was banned. And I think we saw a lot of like cascade effect where those people flooded into other social media platforms and areas. And I've been doing a lot of research into that stuff. But one thing that I find to be a more interesting question around the culture thing in general is how much has internet culture changed politics and economics, especially recently, like in the last, say, 10 years or so?
Tremendously. I mean, I think Obama probably got elected because of their push on internet culture. They were really the first campaign to do it. They did like the grassroots thing that was really ingenious and powerful. Trump, I don't know if it was his intention, but whether it was or not, he played it beautifully.
I believe it was completely accidental. I think he walked right into it.
I think the majority of it was accidental.
Yeah.
I don't think I don't think that he could have known that, you know, becoming kind of the whipping boy of the left would make him so endeared, or create such an endearing kind of virtuous cycle for his campaign. So totally ushered him into the presidency. Also, I think that, you know, Dave Smith's success, even though I think he's one of the most brilliant libertarians out there, this is going to sound, I don't know, superficial, but it's just, I'm pairing this with the discussion about culture. The fact that he's good looking, and the fact that like women would be like, okay, I want to date him, guys are like, I want to be him. That matters. That matters in politics. And I think that also matters in the cultural, you know, aesthetic. Like people like to listen to people that they think are impressive, whether it's looks or intelligence or humor or whatever. And Dave's got all of that. So I think that all of this is largely, the reason I bring it up is this is largely the reason that libertarians have failed, is that we have dismissed that. We've just been like, we have the best ideas and we're going to win because of it. It's like, look, you're not dealing with people that care about ideas. Like, sorry, I wish we were, but we're not. And it's to our detriment to ignore all of the other factors that they do care about.
Yeah, and on the note you just made about Dave being, you know, kind of upfront and likable, I think that's 100% true. He talks like a normal person. Actually, Force Mommy just said that in the chat. You know, he kind of sounds like a...
Shannon says he's just but I know a lot of women that feel differently, Shannon.
So one thing that I'll mention is when George W. Bush ran, younger one, not the older one, when he was elected, one of the reasons that they claimed that he was elected was statistically in the polls, people had said he was the president that they would want to get a beer with.
Yeah.
And
that matters.
I always kind of took that to heart, because I think it's something a lot of politicians in today's day and age miss. And I think that's something Trump also kind of walked into, because he just happened to be loud enough that I think enough Americans were just like, we imprint with that. And totally. Then you kind of just have a candidate people run with.
And I'm lucky enough to have had a couple beers with Dave, and he's a fucking blast to have a couple beers with. So
he's like the only big person in the liberty movement I haven't met, and it's because both the events that he was supposed to be at, I was also going to. He ended up having to cancel because he was having a kid and all that. So it was
yeah, he's had a lot of canceled events as of late. So
yeah, I imagine once I'm over towards Florida, there'll be plenty of events he'll be attending in that neck of the woods. So I guess, how can people prepare for an economic crash? You're somebody that has a little bit of experience, I know, in markets and kind of business in that world, financing. I understand that's a loaded question, because it's something that there can be a ton of variations of answers to and all that. I guess primarily what I'm saying is people in the average libertarian age bracket. This is something that I've talked about before, is that if libertarians are all doing really well in their own personal lives, it will naturally grow the movement regardless of what we're doing politically, because people on the outside will look in, see that for some reason this political group is all financially doing better than the vast majority of the population. Maybe we should join along with them. And that's something I think you especially talk about a lot with your show. So what is your kind of general, not legal advice for somebody who wants to kind of shelter the storm in a sense? And do you think there's a storm to shelter? I guess would be another way to answer that.
I mean, we're already in the storm.
Right.
Inflation is here. We're already paying the price at the pump and elsewhere, basically everywhere. So there's definitely a storm upon us, and I think there's going to be a much more significant one. It really depends tremendously on Federal Reserve policy. So as I've been, I hope that the people that are watching or listening to this right now have already been preparing, and you're not starting from scratch. So to those people, kudos for, taking my advice or taking your own instinctual, guidance and deciding to prepare, cutting down on debt and increasing savings, increasing investment income, passive income, active income. If you're working for somebody who you think has mistreated you during the lockdowns, I strongly believe that you ought to be looking into the entrepreneurial path. I think that you're going to need to be self-sustaining, especially if you're the type that thinks freely and speaks the truth and tells the truth even when it's not popular. Like, you're not long for the corporate world if you're those type of people. So to those people, like that would be my advice: is try and become more autonomous. Try to make sure that your income is derived, and you also are profiting based off the output of energy that you're giving. Because if you're working for someone else, you're never going to get paid what you're worth. That's just
Right.
how it goes.
And one thing that I've been, that's
I am
something
too, I am too Metro for the Panhandle, by the way, but I'm still going to do it anyways. You guys are going to have to deal with me.
Are you going to move over towards the Panhandle?
I might. I don't know. I'm still considering it, but
That's
I'm definitely
that's the
I'm not gonna
area
say
I'm
Miami.
looking at. So
Yeah,
I'm
I
looking
like
at.
Tampa is kind of what I'm looking at.
Okay, that's cool. I've been looking all over the place because it's been kind of crazy. One of the big reasons I'm moving is what you just said. Is there's not many business opportunities in Alaska. It's one of the issues with the state. It's hard
I
to
would
get
imagine,
off the
yeah.
ground building something because of the low population. So for me, like moving to Florida or Georgia, Louisiana, just any state that has a larger population and more dense population, while still obtaining some off the gridness, because I am still a libertarian, obviously, and I like chickens.
Nice. By
but-
the way, I said Tampa's when he said Panhandle. I said Tampa. I know Tampa's not in the Panhandle. I just meant Western Seaboard. You know, not
Yeah.
not the East. Like Miami.
You don't want to live in a
particular.
swamp, and you don't want to live in a giant city as much as you probably do now.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and that's kind of where I'm at too. One moment, sorry, I'm gonna get high.
Congrats. Yeah, Miami is just like there's too much Democrat culture. Even though I have my own disagreements with Republicans in terms of living around them, way better. Yeah, so I've heard Western and North is more libertarian, so I dig that.
Yeah, I've heard that Western North is the way to go if you're a libertarian. I have decided that from now on until the dab era of Legion of Skanks ends, I'm gonna keep it running with the dab era of the show.
I love it, dude. I love it.
Yeah, so I guess we can kind of move into some other things. One thing that I wanted to mention was we talked about preparing for an economic crash. The crypto world is interesting to me, and it's something that I didn't really get involved in until recently. I have been looking more into, obviously, the effects of crypto on government, especially, and I'm going to be having some people on the show to talk more about it. In your opinion, has crypto dealt a blow to the establishment government, or overall fell short in the mission that it supposedly has been running on? Obviously, affronting the Federal Reserve to an extent.
It's both. I mean, it's clear that it's dealt a blow to them because look at them. They're trying to mirror it. They're trying to implement CBDCs, which is a central bank
Fed
digital
coin.
currency, to compete with Bitcoin or any of these other cryptocurrencies that have taken significant market share. So there's no doubt that they have taken a blow, but they have also fired back, and crypto has fallen short. The infighting, the speculative investment aspect of it, the lack of true believers that are really trying to divest themselves of fiat currency and migrate into a truly decentralized new technology, a new era of finance. Like it's predictable. I'm not surprised, but it's also disappointing. It is disappointing that crypto hasn't gotten more adoption in a more sincere fashion where people are actually utilizing it in their day-to-day life.
Right.
And that's part of that's also on the developers too. They haven't kept up the pace to make things as efficient, as user-friendly as is necessary to get mass adoption. So there's lots of people to blame, but there's also a lot of people to credit. I mean, the innovation that we've seen in a 12-year period is pretty miraculous. So I'm not trying to shit on them. I'm just saying, like, I also need you guys to do better.
Yeah,
because I'm not a programmer. I can't do it myself. So I'm relying on you guys. Please, kick ass.
The way that I've referenced it before is crypto realism. The idea that, yes, these things are useful. It's a useful tool. Obviously, it's scary to the government. I don't think there's a lot of people out there who think it's some kind of Fed conspiracy or whatever. And that stuff has been pretty much, in my opinion, put to rest in the sense of the reaction to it. I think things like the Fed coin and stuff, obviously, that you just mentioned, that scares the living shit out of me, because it worries me that if they're going to step in on that market, then obviously they're going to want to push the competition out, and so I see that as an inevitability. Although I will say this, most amount of money I ever helped make somebody was off of a stock called Riot. That was this little company in like Colorado that was mining cryptocurrency. I had saw some posts on Reddit being like, "Hey, they're like fluctuating and buying a bunch of new product." Me and a buddy of mine from Alaska, my buddy that I worked with ended up investing a ton of money in it. Crypto went up through the roof right at the same time that they were putting in all their new supplies. So it went from like a 52-cent a share stock to a little over $45. So it was like one of those like I wish I had put more money in there kind of moments,
Yeah,
and
that's
that's
a
kind of
90
how I
value, dude.
got
That's
all
rad.
this stuff to start the show.
Oh, congrats.
When I
Hey, would you mind clicking Tim's comment? Because I want to respond to it.
this one,
Yeah, he says, wait, are you saying the problem with BTC is that no one wants to use it, and if only they did, it would be better? Yes, that is what I'm saying.
and I actually think I mean, that's spot on. If cryptocurrency in the uses that it's usable in at this point right now, if there were more adopters to it, then cryptocurrency would already be successful, widespread. The issue is that if they stop you from converting to fiat before large-scale adoption, it will turn into a thing to buy drugs with again. Yeah,
Well,
and
I know the Hoppians are going to be upset with me, but I don't have a problem with people using it to buy drugs.
Yeah, neither
I want
do I.
people using it to buy everything. I mean,
Yeah.
the reason that adoption matters and utilization matters is because it actually creates it strengthens the network effect, and it also obviously makes the conversion value to dollars increase because more and more there's more demand for it. There's more utilization. There's more demand. It's a virtuous cycle. If you just believe in the delayed gratification and the compounding nature of the HODL mentality, that's great for those that are early adopters, but it doesn't do much in terms of us
For the new
actually
guys.
migrating from fiat US dollar bullshit standards.
Right.
So it's important that we do both.
Well, and I think that's what we saw recently with some of the crashes of some smaller Bitcoin companies too, was that those companies were go-betweens. So they were like stable coins. And that concept is something that I don't know if I trust at this point, because the idea of a stable coin is, well, the market's supposed to fluctuate, like the value is supposed to fluctuate. So I understand the idea behind it, but from an economist standpoint or economy standpoint, I don't really understand it from a use case of like a storage of wealth, which is how I think some people were using it, which is, I think, kind of screwed them long run, because some of those stable coins weren't so stable.
Well, I understand two reasons, and I don't know if day traders will admit this, or if they're even aware of it, but I think the primary reason for stable coins was that they wanted to have cryptocurrency that was easily sold for or exchanged for a speculative cryptocurrency asset. So they wanted to be able to move in and out quickly
for like pump and dumps.
And if you have it in US dollars, you can't do that because you have to transfer it, they have to clear, and then you're able to trade into. So you have to have some sort of holding mechanism, and that's what the stable coin attempted.
That makes a lot more sense having somebody explain it in that way, because that makes a lot more sense if they're trying to use it as just a very quick pass through. And
that's exactly what it was.
Yeah, somebody's gonna get left holding a whole lot of bag.
and I think it was also, and I don't know if they'd admit this either, but I think it was also to avoid capital gains taxes, because if you're exchanging in and out of cryptocurrencies, it's probably easier to hide that versus if you're taking, say, $15,000 or $20,000, transferring it from your Chase banking account over to Coinbase and then trading, blah blah blah. Like it's if you go in and out of cash, then it's capital gains are gonna be very hard to hide.
Yeah, and this is Joey, I think, synthesized that whole idea into one thing, which is so many people view crypto as just another way to stack fiat instead of replacing fiat. And I think that's where we're at this point.
That is where we're at.
There's a business angle to crypto, and they are expanding, trying to just get people to buy up all this new crypto product that doesn't really add anything to the immediate future.
And I'm not hating on them. Like, hey, get your bag, brother.
Get your money.
It. Yeah, I'm not.
Well, it's
I'm
like
not
people making fun of the NFT
thing.
The NFT thing was funny to me because everybody goes, you could just right click it and download it. I heard Dick Masterson make this point, and it was one of the best points I ever heard him make, which was, he goes, yeah, you can do the same thing with the Mona Lisa. Like, anybody can walk up to the Mona Lisa and snap a picture of it. It doesn't mean you own the thing. Like, there's still a tangible product or code or something behind it. And I think that the way that I look at like even NFTs now, it's like, well, yeah, they have a place in the market eventually. I just don't think they're going to be as obviously these, oh, look, buy this stick dick, which was the Jake or Logan Paul thing, you know, and all
Dude,
that kind of stuff. It's like,
I called it like December of last year. I said when the NFT art market was taking off, I said this is a top. When there was like fucking smoking apes and shit that were selling for $3, $4, $5 million, you know, in Bitcoin, I was like, this is the top. This is the market top, because that is so speculative. That is stupid money just fucking around. And as soon as you see that, you know you're near a top. And I mean, there it was.
I will check that out, Guillotine. So I guess we'll move into more of a discussion about your life on the internet in the past few years
hell.
here, which is, yeah, it has been interesting. So
I'm just kidding. It's been great, but it's also hell.
Also, I do see them, they're talking about guns here, so I will take a second to mention this. Bitcoin and the use of guns is something I want to see like furthered so much more than it is right now. I've talked about, I want to have somebody on specifically in like the 3D printing space and that kind of genre to kind of talk about some of this. But like, yeah.
You need both, man, for sure.
For starters, like, yeah, I think there needs to be more gun companies accepting crypto, which I think would be really cool. I do think one thing Tim makes a comment about is investment into firearms. That is something that here in Alaska, like I know different states work differently, but here in Alaska, investment in firearms is literally the most stable market that exists in this state. Like a gun you buy for $800 is gonna either be worth $800 10 years later or more. They don't really depreciate here. I know some states are different because there's a larger market, obviously. But one thing
it's because we have a devaluing currency and an increasing tyranny. There is no reason to not be bullish on guns and ammo. Like
I swear that people made more money off of holding a bunch of pallets of 223 than they ever would have off of any stock or crypto trade they could have made. I mean, think about the fact that the Russian ammo import thing that Biden pulled too, like AK-47 ammunition went through the roof because it's all Russian made. And so you couldn't get any Russian ammo. It's like I was seeing boxes of Toll cheap, like the gray colored shittiest AK ammo going for sale on the gun traders kind of site down here for like 4 times retail.
I remember, a year ago when we were still wondering if lockdowns were ever going to end, you couldn't fucking find ammo, bro.
No, you couldn't hear either. And this is in a state that's, I mean, I think per capita, we have the most amount of firearms. And it's like, we couldn't buy ammo either. If I hadn't have had a couple crates of like my 2 most commons, because because of these ammo shortages, I have sold off all of my obscure calibers because I'll have some antique guns and stuff like that. A lot of like old school revolvers, hence the name of the show. But I had to sell off some of the more obscure calibers of that stuff because I needed to drop it down to like just 2 or 3 calibers of ammunition I got to buy because it all got so expensive. Okay.
It was brutal.
So you got involved and are kind of co-host on Tower Gang. Yeah. Which has been banned or removed off of YouTube, I think now entirely at this point. And you guys have shows on Odyssey and things like that. I have viewed a few of those since then, and they're still great. You guys are killing it over there. And I know you guys did some live events and stuff like that. Ends in the chat.
Yeah, that was a blast.
And that looked like a blast. I listened to the recording there. Seems like you guys had some audio stuff, but the rest of it was fine.
Yeah, well, we did one at Top's house, and then we also did one at Porkfest in New Hampshire. So just amazing.
I haven't watched the Porkfest one. That's the one that I haven't seen. I've watched the one.
That's the one we actually got. We paid Dan Smots to record it. So. I don't even know if it's out yet, honestly. Like he may be still doing post-production.
When that comes out, I'm gonna be excited. That's gonna look awesome.
Yeah, I hope so. Cool. We'll see.
Yeah,
I have full faith in Dan.
Yes, that's exciting. Yeah, so you were involved in the Liberty space. I would argue that in the beginning you were pretty uncontroversial within the Liberty movement. I I know you
Totally
had some
uncontroversial. Everybody seemed to love me back then.
Yeah, you were well, and I think in particular your show has always had an ability to kind of reach across the aisle. You seem to do a good job of keeping,
I
you
try
know,
to.
you have some differing opinions and things like that on which I know is really difficult for libertarian shows, kind of getting people from the other side and
It's
that
not
kind of
easy.
branch out. Yeah,
Especially the left. It's very, very hard to get them to come talk. But
yeah. And
is
so
what it
I know you had some turmoil online. You were doxxed, which is
Yep.
not fun. And that's something that, so when that happened, I made a few statements about it. And I'm not going to we don't need to go into like details behind that, obviously. But a lot of people have misconceptions about like the attitude online about doxing. And that's something I kind of want to hear your opinion on. Because when I was coming up on forums like Reddit and 4chan and those kind of areas, like the idea of doxing somebody, that was like the ultimate you are a piece of shit move. Like there were only two things really that were looked at horribly in my more turmoil kind of trolley days on the internet. And that was flagging people's YouTube channels
yeah,
and
that's super fucking whack.
and doxing. Like that was it, right?
I think those two, and then swatting is like the apex level.
Which back then swatting was just such a young idea. People were just kind of like that was a thing. There was like the Russian swatting guy and stuff like that. But my main thing was now in this kind of weird technocracy kind of world that we live in, you end up with this situation where there are basically assholes on the internet that don't have morals anymore. The culture on the internet has been impacted. And in my opinion, it happened because of politics. Like internet just over the last 5-10 years or so around that Obama election that you mentioned before just became a lot more political. So you have anger on both sides and stuff. I know you got into a tussle on a line with an individual that I refer to as the Gunt or Ethan Ralph. It'd be fun to kind of go through some of the history behind that as well. So I guess go over the bad stuff that has happened with you on the internet.
Oh well, I don't think the Ethan Ralph thing was bad.
I guess not bad, but the
that one
dramatic.
was just he was talking shit about my girlfriend, and not just talking shit about her, but doing a multi-hour live stream where he had on some dude. People can look into it if they want. I don't want to give them any PR, even though they're much bigger profile people than me. They were hating on her and saying a bunch of crazy shit that 80% of it's not true, and the 20% that is like it doesn't include the reasons why she was in the mental state that she was in. So it was just I said something to the effect of like, I'll debate you on anything and ruin your career or something. I don't know what I said. I just said something to antagonize him back because he was being a dickhead. That's it.
And I don't know how much you know about the origin or backstory of Ethan
I've learned more since, but I didn't know anything about him then. Literally the only time I had ever seen the guy was when Dave Smith went on there to debate whatever his name is.
I'm going to talk about that in a second.
Okay.
So I have been warning everybody in the liberty movement as a whole since I got involved about 2.5 years ago about this dude named Ethan Ralph who was going to get involved with the movement or was going to attempt to. Rip in peace, rest in pepperoni, blood sports. I am determined to bring back a sort of libertarian version of blood sports. I've been working on that behind the scenes for a while.
Dope. I love debates.
Yeah, internet blood sports was probably my funnest and favorite era of the internet. This kind of just shit show of debate where people screamed at each other, but it somehow managed to be funny and enjoyable. I know the history probably better than most on the internet lore and stuff like that. I can tell you from my understanding of said lore that there was a bunch of lies being thrown around on said stream that Ethan had. And the people that he seems to surround himself with are like the worst individuals in the general surrounding area of the movement.
Right. Well, and that is, I was invited onto that stream, and Ashton was kind enough to inform me do not do it. Like
No.
his followers are rabid and they will absolutely come after you. And I was like, all right, then fuck it. I don't need this.
That's an area of the internet I attempted to insulate the liberty movement from as best I could.
Yeah.
I mean,
that's kind of
the amount of DMs I sent to people being like, "Hey, just don't." Yeah. And so then Dave had the debate.
And it sucks, by the way, because I would love to fucking go at it with Ralph. Like that is like blood sports would be really fun for me because I can actually talk shit.
Ralph is a lolcow, right? Yeah. This is and there's some people like that on the internet who have become kind of infamous in a way. He's definitely one of those, and it is fun to poke that and have fun with it, and I'm all for people doing it. It's the like. Okay, so for one thing, he lied about a contract he had with Odyssey. So he claimed that Odyssey had given him this contract so he could stream on their platform, and then Odyssey had to come out later on and basically shit all over his dreams and tell him no, there was no contract. It didn't exist. So he has kind of a pattern of doing shitty stuff, like not only behind the scenes on the internet, but also just life stuff that I as a human am like, nah.
Yeah. I mean, and he's been beat up multiple times on the street by
Portugal, man. Don't fucking go to Portugal. Stop going to Portugal. That's the best advice Ethan Ralph has ever got, is just stop going to fucking Portugal.
But let me just say real quick, I have no beef with the guy. Like he's like,
no,
I know what he is. I know what he's doing, and he's like, that is his hustle, man. So like, go get it. But if you're going to drag me or my girlfriend into it, like I gotta fucking stand up a little bit, like, but at the same time, like I'm really not knocking his hustle. Like that is what he's about, and he's got fans for it. Fucking go get it, dude.
The way that I refer to it in Nick Rekieta and that kind of site is on the same side of that internet kind of world, and their way of saying it is respect the grift. You know, I respect the grift. I'm all for anybody making money on the internet. You want to super chat and donations and Patreons and all that.
It's just very low for them to do a 2-hour stream talking about Ashton. It's just
I operate on a bit of like internet morals, and I think that's something that we lost on the internet, especially in the internet culture around that time the politics gets involved, is that there used to be kind of a pact on the internet where people just didn't like do these things, and now that veil seems to have been ripped away, and now the internet has become a little more Wild West, which some people like. But it's also Wild West in the wrong ways, right? Like, you're still getting banned, you're still getting silenced and nuked, you're just not getting the benefits of the protections that come with it. Before Liberty Twitter Trauma, there was the kill stream, and it was glorious. Yes. Yeah. Exactly. I know Magoo definitely watched that. And here's the thing, right? Like, I want more than anything. And this was what, so Nick Rekieta is a Jewy internet lawyer, one of my go-to people I absorb content of on the YouTubes. He's a fun, interesting person, but now it's just a holler and hell. He's a fit in the holler. Clint is not going to get these references, but there's an even more famous person on the internet named Jim Mediker. Who is the ultimate guy to make fun of Ethan. He is Ethan's father. Ethan Ralph was born out of the ball sack of Jim Mediker, who unfortunately has the cancers. Bummer. I mean that seriously. Mediker is kind of like the internet trolling godfather in a sense.
Nice.
And
well, get well soon. Kind stranger.
Lol, Jewy. No, Nick is not Jewy, but his nose makes him an honorary Jew. That's how it works. Clint's like 3/8 of an inch off from that club.
Well, I read basically nothing but Jewish literature, so might as well.
Right, I'm honorary. It's the rite of passage. You have to read all of Mises's books, and then you automatically get sent to yarmulke.
I wish. I'm still waiting for it to arrive. I just wanted to say real quick, like, I love the shitpost culture. I love the trolling culture. I love all of it. What I don't get though is like, why is there no like honor amongst thieves kind of mentality. Like,
Right.
like why don't
Well,
we
there
tend
used to
get-
be. That's what I try to
Okay.
put out is, in my opinion, like if you go back to pre 2008, in the 2003 2004 up until that point, there was kind of honor amongst thieves in a way, because the internet was, there was an understanding that taking things to the real world was necessary at some points, but not always necessary. You know, there's famously like a protest that was brought into the real world. The early days of Anonymous protested the Church of Scientology, right? And that was all born off of internet forums and shit like that. And then they go and protest this big event and they brought it into the real world. That's a good thing. I'm okay with that. But then you have situations where internet being brought into the real world means doxing and means going after somebody's life, what I refer to as life ruination, which is kind of the internet term for it. And life ruination is something that used to really not be a thing on the internet. It is something recent that has become pretty rampant infection. You know, it's like you start around that 2008 era. It seems like everybody went from posting on forums and making YouTube videos and debating on live streams, things like that, to like calling cops to people's houses and like swatting people in parks.
This is what bothers me most, really, is that like I would actually respect some of my haters more if they would try and fight me. You know, like I would rather them, like when they see me at events, because they see me at events all the time.
Yeah.
I'm everywhere, right? But no one ever fucking says anything cross ever, not once, never. But online, it's like fucking shitstorm. I'll get doxxed. I'll get fucking threatened. It's like, okay, well then when you see me, bring that energy, dog. And no one ever does. And it's just like, that's what I mean by honor. Like be honored, like be a man about it. And it just it drives me crazy because it's also
for real though, with all the libertarian like events going on and things like that, especially in the future, I don't see a reason why there couldn't be libertarian like boxing events. And if that is a possibility, the amount of money that is on the table, we could.
Dude. we can also get a bag. Like let's get a bag while we're at it.
We could convince Dave Smith to box somebody. You imagine the Louis J. Gomez training Dave.
I outweigh Dave by like 50 pounds. He doesn't want none.
LP Fight Club. That would be so much fun. Before normies knew that what the internet was, it was much harder to ruin someone's life via internet drama. Yeah, so that's exactly right.
Let me add. You asked me what other fucked up shit has happened to me online. There is an incredible lore about me that is completely detached from reality. I have people that have propagated the fact that I have covered for a spousal, a domestic abuser, a guy who I've never met, a guy who I didn't know, a guy who I had never talked to. 100% false fiction, whole cloth, just fucking out of the ether, plucked out of the ether and just propagated. Totally false.
So that was one of those drama events in the Liberty space that I was absorbing from the outside, going, what the fuck has happened here? Because it was like, dude, one or two people made some tweets that didn't make any fucking sense and made comments without any evidence of anything, and then a bunch of people.
It was even worse than that. The girl who was allegedly abused came to me asking for me to help, and I was like, okay, if you want to present your evidence, I'd be happy to have you on the show to present it to fucking ruin this cat, because I'm not like, I don't want some dude who's actually beating women up to be in the Liberty space and like blowing up or shit. Like, fine. Never presented it to me, so that died there, and then it got flipped to me covering for the guy, and I was like,
somehow it gets
complete opposite.
It was weeks later, some shit, and somehow the whole thing got brought back up, and I was like, what the fuck? This is like weeks ago. Like, we're not done with this yet. It's like
crazy. But God bless Reed Coverdale, because he fucking put together this 30-minute just
that video,
the entire narrative.
Savage. And that was when you guys fell in love. It was from then on. It was.
Yeah, well, exactly. I mean, we were already in love before that, but so that was one. Then there's the other narrative. This one cat, I'm not even gonna say his name, but he is fucking propagated this narrative that I ripped off his entire shtick to become known, because he was like allegedly the Liberty Wigger, and I was like,
I made the best meme for this. It was you as
as Ali G.
Ali G. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And it was like, dude, I'm sorry. Like, we're probably the same age. I don't know, but like, we just came up in the same arena. We're both liberty minded, and we're both love rap. Like, that's the beginning and end of our connection. But he was like, he swore to God that I was ripping him off. And then he also said that, because I debated the same guy at the same time, and then Dave was talking about the debate, but he didn't say which debate. I thought Dave was talking about my debate. I threw him a clip of it, and then Dave invites me on Part of the Problem shortly thereafter. He's like, so Clint fucking hopped in there and he robbed my opportunity to be on Part of the, like, it's all so, like, it's literally fiction, but whatever, man. There's nothing I can do.
Dude's out here acting like Dave Smith's podcast is the ring to rule them all.
Well, no, but I mean, it kind of is. I mean, it is.
I get it, but like...
it certainly helped me. But the truth is, none of that happened. Like, I didn't go in there thinking that I was ripping off his opportunity. I thought he was talking about my debate, so I took the shot when I thought I had it. That's it. That's all there was to it. And then there's another fucking propagated narrative that I don't have any money, that I never ran a mortgage company, that I'm not an entrepreneur, like that like everything about me is false. What else? I'm dating Ashton for clout, or she's dating me for money, or whatever. And it's like, no, we just met at Tom Woods 2000 and we hit it off, and we've been dating ever since. Like, that's all there is to it. I mean, there's just.
Oh, I was there when you guys first met.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm just saying, like, this is all lore, dude. It's like
That's when I saved Dickie
totally
Walnut's life.
real.
I think
It's
you
totally
met me
not real.
shortly thereafter. That was the Jose Cuervo bottle.
Exactly. Yeah, no, they were very drunk.
Oh, that was such a fun night. That event was like, there's levels to it, but the libertarian events I've been to so far have been a blast. I will say this, I've been to a lot of like comic conventions and stuff like that, because I like that kind of world of things. And I kind of became known as the guy who just pop up places for a little while there. But libertarian events are like, yeah, people are just kind of, I know it's the stigma of like awkward kind of autism and all that thing, but everybody seemed very like natural, social to an extent. Everybody I walked up to was friendly.
I go to these events.
Yeah,
every time I go to these events, it's like a love fest. I have nothing but a great time. I'm super friendly. I'll fucking sit down and talk to you for hours. Like, I have a blast every time.
That day at Yale that we met, there was literally just like the awning was just full of people the whole time.
Yeah, I know. No one was even in, like, I'd say like half the people were actually in watching the talks, and the other half were just like out meeting their internet friends and stuff like that. It was a beautiful experience.
Orlando homies, see you in October. I think she's referring to an event that's going on over in the Panhandle, but that might be something different. I'm not sure. Tim, I don't remember being there, but apparently I was. You were. I definitely met you. But you didn't remember meeting me either. There was a few people who didn't, but I did meet like most of the Tower Gang guys and all that and stuff like that. So I had a pretty decent rapport with everybody. And I think that, again, like the Liberty movement in general has just been really supportive to everybody I've kind of seen, regardless of like the whole...
me.
Yeah, well, I guess I'll say this. The majority of the Liberty movement, I'd argue the majority of the Liberty movement in like our general sphere is fully on board with your show. But it's kind of like the same thing with the wokeism and everything else that's kind of happening in the world. It's kind of this loud minority. And I think the Liberty movement...
I wouldn't mind if it was the fucking wokeritarians that hated me. It's the hardcore anarchists that hate me.
Right, which is weird as shit, because I'm an ANCAP. Like, that's kind of the moniker I wear. And it's the idea to me that you're should be hated by the anarchists is fucking retarded. Like,
it's weird, dude. I don't get it at all. But
a big part of it is I feel like
more than the wokeritarians do. Like,
you know what I almost feel like it is? I feel like it's subcultures within content creators, and so. Yeah, and so if you have a few big content creators in this space of the Liberty area, and then a few big in this little Liberty space in the area, and then if somebody else kind of gleams into that area, they all get pissed off, and then it almost is kind of like a mini canceling, where some certain people in that area of the Liberty movement will make some statements, and it kind of trickles down. That shit irritates me.
It's totally like a mini cancel culture. You're absolutely right. and that's fine. You know, it is what it is. But I wish I understood it. You know, like I wish I understood the actual genesis. For
I don't get it.
They don't even have like a case against me. They're just like, fuck him.
We need to know your meme for why the internet and the liberty space hates Twitter or hates Clint.
Well, I mean, like there's some people that hate me for the lies that I just disabused your audience of, but then there's others that are just like, fuck this guy. That's the extent of it, and I'm like, why?
Yeah,
I don't know why.
He makes a good point here, because the further you go down the rabbit hole, they need to find someone to be autist about. And I'll be honest, like I get called an internet autist because I go on little rabbit holes on individual topics.
We all are.
And for me, it's like, I don't know, I do stupid things, and I'm working on a bunch of like scripts and stuff for that, because I get like history stuff and shit like that I like. Yeah. But I feel like libertarians
we have so much shit to focus on. I don't understand how we spend any energy like tearing each other down. That's what trips me out, because like I'm very fortunate. I've been uplifted by the vast majority of people in this movement. So I'm not trying to be like, oh boo-hoo, I'm such a victim here. It's just funny to me that like there is like 1,000 or so people online that like are really dedicated to hating me, and for the most part, I don't have any clue who the fuck they are. Like I just block people when they talk shit to me, and that's the end of it. But I don't like. We are like in the most tyrannical period in American, maybe not American history, but certainly in our lifetimes. And I don't understand how they can spend any energy on me. You know, it's just like, just ignore me, dude. Like it's okay. Just let me be. Just let me go. It's okay.
Clint is actually holed up in a BK bathroom right now, stealing free Wi-Fi. Exposed.
It is. It's a very high-end green screen.
We're all on the spectrum, but it's your metal genre wars. You're just not as tis me.
That could be it.
Yeah, I suppose. I
am normal by autistic libertarian standards, I guess.
Yeah, I think I fall in that spectrum. See what I did there?
We're in the spectrum of normalcy.
We're in the spectrum of normalcy. I think what it is like, when I do the panel shows, which we're doing one tomorrow, by the way, Normal Outlawed Thoughts kind of panel show, where I have Josh Alofka, Kareem Mays, and C.D. McRae as my kind of co-hosts here when we break down like news stories and stuff. The thing that I've noticed with that too is like I've tried to have multiple like thoughts on the show, like outlawed thoughts. Multiple people with different kind of thought processes around like the liberty movement. So like Kareem, I would argue, is a little more on the left side of the libertarian thing, but he's not an idiot. And CD is a good kind of, I'd argue, a little more on the right of the libertarian spectrum. And I've always kind of considered myself more of the anarchist spectrum, where I'm like, get rid of fucking all of it. And I think CD is too, but you know, I think me and her disagree on some marketing ideas for the liberty movement. And then Josh is the Florida guy, obviously, over there. And so I like having somebody who's kind of in one of the bigger liberty hotspots to talk to. And what I've noticed by doing that is just like the difference in conversation that you end up having when you cover stories. Everybody ends up having somewhat of a different take, even though we're all libertarians. And so we all have a different version of autism that we equip.
Yeah, no, I think that's true. And I like that. I like having differences of opinion. I'm not super convinced that every single position I hold is definitively correct. For instance, I have changed my stance largely on the abortion issue. I'm still not super gung ho about involving the government in actually enforcing it. So, and a lot of people would be upset with me about that. But regardless, the point being,
I'm in the exact same boat as you on
evolve my brain on it.
I got in quite a few arguments because I think I'm probably in similar boat to you, where I was like, yeah, I don't want abortion to happen because I think certain areas of my morals and things don't allow it. But at the same time, I don't see how the government can enforce this without it literally being like, cops are going to come in your house and like arrest this chick because she went to the doctor. Like,
Yeah,
and I'm like,
and then-
I
and
don't
then-
want
and then-
that.
And then the pro-lifers will come back at you like, nah, they'll just arrest the doctors. And I'm like, oh, okay, so they're just going to arrest the doctors, even though the mother is clearly
Is the
as
one
guilty
that's
as the doctor.
yeah.
Like,
So then
clearly.
you've created the same problem over again, kind of thing.
Yeah.
And
So you're going to have all these women that are out there killing their kids, but they don't pay any price for it. It's just the doctors
Yeah.
that do. Like, that doesn't make any fucking sense either.
no,
So
and it seems like you'll almost end up with a worse situation than you started with, because you're going to victimize so much of it that you're going to drive it underground. I know people hate that as a
yeah,
reference
it goes that way
point,
too. Yeah.
but it does happen. And you just saw like the whole thing, the news story with the 10-year-old that went viral, which I don't need to get into details on, but 'cause it's horrible. But that whole thing happened, and you saw like it took a while to get reports back, and it's like they traveled this person to another state and stuff, and it's clearly done for somewhat political reasons. And I'm like, so then what's to say that doesn't start happening all over the place if the government begins enforcing this in the same way that it might start happening if some states enforce it? And so it's just like it becomes this issue of enforcement. And I think that's something a lot of libertarians don't
and then-
understand to a
and
full
then
extent.
there's all this innovation when it comes to pills and things that you can take to induce an abortion. So it's like it's not really enforceable. So it's really just comes down to like you want to have a law on the books that reinforces your morality, even if it's not efficacious in terms of eliminating the abortions. So it's more like it's performative. And in which case, why are you empowering the state if it's just performative? Like there's lots of questions here. But at the same time, I do believe that abortion's murder. So like I have many different angles from which I view this. But point being, I love to have people on that disagree with me on this, because I am still ironing this out in my brain.
Yeah, and I think we can kind of wrap on because I know I don't want to take up too much of your time. We wrap on. Oh damn it! I just had the question in my head and I just completely whiffed it. Well,
You can't whiff the final question, brother. Come on.
yeah, I know it's irritating, but you know what? I guess we'll close out with this. If there was something that you could change about the liberty movement right now to put it in a better position, what would it be?
Oof.
I know
there's
that's
a
a
lot.
tough one.
There's a lot. If there was one thing, I don't know. I mean, if there's one thing, I think it would be that we focus more on self-improvement than we focus on trying to change the political, establishment.
That was literally exactly the message I gave on like 2 weeks ago.
Okay, well then good. I honestly, I believe it. Like I think that people will not listen to us unless we're impressive people. And we don't have enough impressive people in this movement. And that's a problem. It's a huge problem. And perfect example, and this is going to sound really fucked up, but it's the truth. Why is it that there are so many hot women at GOP conventions? Because the men there have their shit together more than the libertarian men do. And I think that matters. Like it matters for cultural cohesion. It matters for just appeal to get people that go like, I want to be in this place. This is why I'm such a huge advocate and fan and supporter of Dave Smith, is because I know that he can bring in people like that. He can bring in, and it's a virtuous cycle. You get attractive women, you're going to get a hell of a lot more men showing up too. And then you get more attractive men showing up, you get more women showing up, and it blows up from there. So I think that that's a big problem, is that we don't focus on our own personal growth, whether it's getting in shape or it's just being financially free. I mean, you have so many opportunities to make yourself a better person and be in a better position. And not nearly enough libertarians take that same passion that they have for liberty and actually implement it in the things they can actually control. We talk so much about the political establishment, which we have virtually no control over, while we do nothing to attend to the things that we can actually intervene on. And I just think, start there, work your way from there. And that's the one thing I would like to change. I would like to see a bunch of fucking shredded savages at the next libertarian convention.
Well, I have been working on that since I got back from the first
I
Florida
love it, man.
event.
I can tell you look like you're thinning out. And by the way, I am super out of shape right now, so I'm sound like a hypocrite. But regardless,
Well, I felt the
support.
same when I made the same comments. I had to preface it by saying like I'm somebody who's working on my financial goals and I'm working on my physical goals, but I also think everybody else should be doing that.
Exactly.
Because I think if we all were in that position again, I think you're going to get better people showing up events, and that doesn't mean better people because they're just physically look better. It means better people because from the outside looking in, if you're somebody looking to join a party, and again, you see a bunch of successful people, a bunch of business owners, or people who financially stable,
Yep.
people
Which is what the
who
GOP
look
looks
decent.
like to a large extent right now.
Exactly. You end up, well, especially the younger ones. You know, I
Right.
see so many young guys my age in the GOP who are doing way better than I am. Like, are in much better places at 22 than I'm
Well,
doing right now.
In fairness,
and
a
I
lot
go,
of those guys come from like trust fund families or their
Right.
family business, so like they have a leg up, but it doesn't excuse it. Like we should still be trying to compete with them in terms of
well, no,
success
because
in
if
the
we
field-
build our
field.
wealth now, then in the future, our kids are the ones that are going to be in their position. And so
Bingo.
that's what you want.
Yep.
To lift heavy, get money.
For real, dog. I like, yeah. I'm gonna change my fucking show to that.
Oh yeah, Shannon pointing out the fact I do not have a bank account. I've never had a bank account. I also don't have a license, or I'm very libertarian in that sense. I don't like identification that the government has information on people. That whole idea is fucking whack to me. And I come from a family who has that same belief. So like I don't like I have a prepaid debit card. If I need to buy something online, I load something on there. If I need to get something, that's it. I don't want nothing else.
All I want to hear from you is 5 years from now you're a crypto billionaire, all right? Since you're not using any
Jesus, I
banking.
hope so.
Make it happen.
All right. Well, I will end us off here. Join us tomorrow. I've got another stream going up with as many of the co-hosts as I can get up and awake and online. And thank you, Clint. Again, it's awesome to get to talk to you again. And hopefully
brother.
I'll see you in person here soon.
Yeah, I'm gonna hop off this, go to Union of the Unwanted with Sam Tripoli and Charlie Robinson, all those guys.
Oh,
So
fuck
anybody
yeah.
here, go check that out. I don't even know if they air live, but you'll be able to hear it in a couple days, I'm sure.
No, that's awesome. Sam Tripoli.
Oh, and
is
subscribe
the
to Liberty
shit.
Lockdown if you want.
Yes, obviously, go sub to Clint and follow him on Twitter. I think your handle is the same as your name on YouTube, right?
No,
Is it-
it's at Liberty Lock Pod.
At Liberty Lock Pod. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
But I just hit 47,000. Crazy.
Yeah, that is nuts. I'll be on standby. Yes, we might need you tomorrow. All right, we'll catch you guys later.